Baby, I need to tell you something that has been burning inside my chest for so long. These words have lived in the silence of my nights, carved into the places of my soul I never dared to show. Every time I closed my eyes, I could feel your face, your warmth, your love, but also the weight of my own truth that I kept running from. Baby, this is not easy. It is not casual. It is not one of those fleeting moods that disappears with the sunrise. This is my soul whispering something I've resisted for years. And tonight, I can't resist anymore. Baby, I don't need you anymore. Not because I stopped loving you, not because my heart turned cold, but because my soul has finally surrendered to the truth of what we are and what we are not. You see, there is a difference between needing and loving. Needing you meant I clung to you like air, like water, like a desperate man clings to the last piece of wood in a stormy sea. But love, real love, baby, it asks for freedom. It asks for surrender. It asks that I stand in my own light without shadowing yours, and that I let you bloom in your own garden without caging your wings. I used to think I needed you to survive, that without you my life had no meaning, no color, no purpose. But the divine in its mysterious timing has shown me that my survival was never in your hands. It was always in God's. It was always in the hands of destiny. Baby, I confused attachment with devotion. I confused my wounds with my love. I made you carry the burden of filling my emptiness when in truth, that emptiness was mine to heal. And now that I see the truth, I realize I don't need you anymore. I need me. I need God. I need to honor the path my soul chose before I even met you. But don't get it twisted, baby. My heart will always beat differently when I think of you. Loving you has shaped me, carved me, destroyed me, and resurrected me. Without you, I would never have discovered the broken places inside me that were begging for light. Without you, I would never have understood the cruelty of attachment or the beauty of surrender. Without you, baby, I would never have met myself. You were the mirror I avoided for lifetimes. And when I looked at you, I didn't just see your beauty. I saw the reflection of my wounds, my shadows, my hidden fears. Baby, the truth is, I don't need you anymore because my love for you has matured into something higher, something divine, something that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't demand. It simply is. I don't need you to be mine because in truth you've always been a part of me. Whether you stay or go, whether you love me back or turn your face away, you're imprinted on my soul. And you can't erase that with time, with silence, or even with distance. Baby, you're carved into me like a scripture written by the divine itself. And still I feel the sting of this truth. It's painful to release the need for you. It's painful to look at your memory and not cling the way I used to. I used to beg heaven to keep you in my arms forever. I used to bargain with the stars, saying, please, let me need her, let me have her, let me not lose her. But now, I can't pray that anymore. Now my prayer is different. Now I say, God, let her be free. God, let her be whole. God, let her destiny unfold, with or without me. Baby, I know these words may sound like rejection, but they're not. They are redemption. They are the sound of chains breaking. They are the confession of a man who has stopped running from himself. You see, I wanted you to complete me, but you couldn't. because you were never meant to. You weren't born to heal my wounds. You weren't sent here to carry my scars. That was always my work. And baby, now that I've finally begun to walk that path, I see the truth more clearly than ever before. Baby, don't think I don't love you. I love you so deeply it frightens me. But my love has changed shape. It's no longer the desperate cry of a broken man. It's the silent devotion of a soul that knows you are divine. It's the surrender of one flame to another, knowing both must rise in their own time, in their own way, in their own destiny. Baby, needing you was the story of my past. Loving you without needing you is the truth of my present. When I said I don't need you anymore, what I really meant is, I don't need you to hold me together, baby. I don't need you to validate me, to define me, to prove my worth. I don't need you to rescue me from myself. I don't need you to fill my emptiness. Baby, I have found God in the silence. I have found myself in the fire. I have found the strength to walk even when your hand isn't holding mine. And yet, I ache when I think of you. Because baby, letting go of need doesn't erase love. In fact, it makes it purer. It makes it harder. It makes it holier. Loving you without needing you is the bravest thing I've ever done. It's the most painful sacrifice I've ever made. And still, I would do it again and again if it meant setting you free. Baby, I want you to know this. No matter where life takes me, no matter who stands by my side, no matter how the story unfolds, a part of me will always belong to you. Not because I need you, but because my soul recognizes yours. Because in 1,000 lifetimes, I would still know your energy in a crowded room. Because in the silence of eternity, your name would still echo inside me. Baby, if you ever doubted, hear me now. I don't need you anymore, but I will always love you. And that is the truth I never had the courage to say before. If you've ever loved someone so deeply that letting go felt like the bravest thing, type, I surrender to love in the comments. Baby, there are nights I wake up with your name still tasting like salt on my lips, and I realize how stubborn memory can be, how it lingers like incense in a temple long after the last prayer has been offered. I have walked fields of regret, carrying the weight of all the things I should have said, and the many small mercies I refused to give when I had the chance. I replay our moments like a worn film and watch the same scenes break me open and stitch me back together again. The way you laughed when you were unaware of anything but joy. The way your hands trembled when you tried to hide your fear. The way our silence sometimes became the loudest language between us. Baby, I confess that my pride often wore the mask of protection. I told myself I was guarding our love from weakness, when really I was hiding from my own vulnerability. I thought strength meant never bending, but the divine has taught me that true strength is the courage to fall, to admit the wound, and to let the healing begin. I have learned to kneel before the small broken things inside me and ask for mercy, and in that kneeling, I have found a kind of power I never had when I pretended to be whole. Baby, there is a temple inside me where memories worship like faithful pilgrims, and you have always been the brightest candle there. I have lit offerings of apology and gratitude in the hollow spaces where I once blamed you for my storm. I have put down offerings of forgiveness for the times I judged you harshly, for the nights I accused you of leaving when I was the one who closed my heart. This is the change the divine wanted me to see. That relationship is not about the accumulation of proofs that you were right or that I was right. It is about the slow, deliberate tending of two wounded gardens until one day they can stand side by side and blossom without trampling each other. This is the change the divine wanted. It wasn't enough. Baby, I see now that my impatience, my fear, my attempt to control your path were not signs of love, but signs of a man who was afraid to trust life. I thought if I tightened my grip, I could protect what I loved, but life answered in a voice soft as wind. You cannot own another soul. You can only honor it. You can only be the house where love finds shelter, not the jailer that keeps it captive. Baby, family and fate braided our lives together before we knew how to untangle the threads. And sometimes the expectations of those who love us become like iron benches we sit on until our spirits ache. I know the faces that watched us build dreams, mothers who prayed for stability, fathers who feared the unknown, siblings who wanted to see us safe. I know how their love can be a double-edged blade, protective and sharp. I have carried their hopes like sacred scrolls and felt the pressure to perform my love in the way they could recognize. But destiny is not only the map drawn by others. Destiny is a river that runs beneath the roads we walk. Sometimes it lifts us, sometimes it pulls away from shore. Baby, we were placed in one another's orbit for reasons both tender and terrible. To teach, to heal, to break old patterns, and to push each other toward our rightful place under the sun. If our story has the sound of thunder now, it is because the old trees are being uprooted to make room for a forest that has not yet been planted. Family will ask questions, neighbors will whisper, but the truth sits quietly in the bones. There are things the heart must do for itself, and sometimes those things look like leaving. Baby, let me tell you about surrender, because when I discovered its strange holiness, I thought I had failed and instead I had been initiated. Surrender is not passive. Surrender is an act of devotion so heavy and honest that it becomes prayer. When I surrendered the need to control you and our future, I did not give up on love. I upgraded it to the altar it deserved to sit upon. I stopped bargaining with the cosmos and began asking simply, what is the highest good? When a man can ask that and actually mean it, his love transmutes from possession into blessing. I bless you now, baby, with every breath that still remembers the warmth of your body. I bless the way your laughter taught me to untether my gloom. I bless the way your courage, even when it hurt me, opened a passage in my chest through which light could finally travel. Surrender taught me that sometimes the most loving choice is to stand back, to let the universe unfold, to trust that if something is meant to remain, it will find its way with a purity that neither of us can manufacture. Baby, I have been transformed by the quiet work of mornings, by the long invisible labor of understanding what being a man really means. There was a time when I equated masculinity with being unshakable, with always having the answer and never showing the cracks. But the divine has been patient with me, and in the slow hours, I have learned that a man who can sit with his sorrow is stronger than one who masks it with bravado. There is a nobility in admitting that you are afraid of losing someone who has become part of your story. There is even more nobility in letting that person go, if holding them would prevent their growth or yours. Transformation is an inside job that takes a lifetime and a deep breath. Sometimes the first step is the simplest, to say the truth aloud. Baby, when I say I don't need you anymore, I do not mean I will stop cherishing you. I mean I will stop using you as my scaffolding. I mean I will stand on my own scaffolding and let life test me. Baby, destiny has its seasons. I remember the small boy I was, making promises to imaginary lovers under a streetlight, thinking that vows could bind the future like rope. But destiny is not a rope. Destiny is a living thing with its own will. It bends, it breaks, it renews. The divine timing that orchestrates our lives is not cruel. It is precise. There are seasons when two souls must orbit separately, so that when they return, their resonance is purer, their music less clumsy. I have faith that the universe conspires for those who are willing to wake up, to do the inner work, to become the kind of person love can meet again without fear. Baby, if destiny is kind to us, it will make us worthy of the reunion we secretly crave. But if destiny has other plans, if our paths diverge, then I will still bow to the unfolding of the story. And surrender taught me that what is not given freely cannot be cherished fully. Baby, I want to speak now about shame, because shame has been my closest teacher and my harshest enemy. Shame told me I was unworthy of your love, so I performed worthiness in ways that were loud and exhausting. Shame made me small, and when you could not always carry my darkness, I blamed you for leaving me in my smallness. But shame will not shelter you. Only truth will. So I am telling the truth now. I was ashamed of my dependence. I was ashamed of my nights that begged for you like prayers. I am ashamed no longer. I forgive the parts of me that were weak, and I honor the courage it took to admit that weakness. When a man can forgive himself, he frees the other to breathe. I want to free you, baby, from the weight of my unfinished healing. I want to shed that demand like old skin and walk toward you with a stripped heart, not to reclaim you, but to show you what true offering looks like without expectation. Baby, love is not a chain, it is a road. It is not a prison, it is a passage. Sometimes when two people love each other fiercely, they collide and bruise one another until the force of friction produces a light so bright it hurts the eyes. Perhaps that is what happened to us. We loved with the intensity of meteors and forgot that meteors burn themselves up if they do not find a proper sky. I do not regret the blaze, because from it is born ash, and from ash, the soil for new growth. I am planting seeds now, not to replace you, but to honor the parts of me that were neglected while I hurried after your shadow. I plant patience. I plant discipline. I plant the gentle rituals of presence that I failed to offer before. I build a small altar to practice devotion, waking at dawn to breathe, opening my hands to give without counting returns, speaking prayers to the unseen guardians who teach men to be gentle. These are the offerings that will shape me into someone who can stand in love without needing it like air. Baby, there is a tenderness I have discovered that is not soft because it is passive. It is soft because it has been deliberately chosen. I have learned to be tender to my own heart first. I have learned to sit with my rage until it exhausts itself into peace. I have learned to listen to the subtle currents of my body, to the little honest voices that whisper in the night. This tenderness has led me to a kind of sobriety where I no longer drown my loneliness in the drama of keeping you close. Instead, I invite you to witness the man who can both love and let go, who can both grieve and give thanks. This is the strange fruit of maturity, to hold grief like a jewel and to let it glimmer without letting it shatter you. Baby, forgiveness is the scripture I have been reading in secret. I forgive you for the ways you could not meet me when I needed you most. I forgive you for the nights you were absent and the choices you made that felt like departure. I also forgive myself for the ways I clung and for the nights I pushed you away in fear that you would leave anyway. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is an act of liberation. When I forgive, I unshackle both our histories from the future. I will not drag the ghosts of yesterday into tomorrow's morning. I refuse to be a museum of our pain. Instead, I will be a garden where the lessons of pain turn into petals of wisdom. Baby, I promise you this. I will live in a way that honors what we had. I will carry our love like a quiet relic, not a crown. I will speak of you when storms pass and give thanks for the warmth we shared. If the divine allows, I will become a man who can stand beside you as an equal, whose presence does not smother but supports. If the divine's plan says we must part, then I will bless your new beginning as if it were my own. I will pray for the hands that hold you after me, that they may be gentle and brave and kind. I will pray that your laughter never fades and that your sorrow is used as an instrument to carve out new compassion within you. Baby, I know the world will try to label this as giving up, and some will whisper that men who say, "I don't need you," are simply running. Let them whisper. The truth is heavy and lonely sometimes, and not everyone is called to carry it with grace. But I carry it because the divine has placed the map in my chest and set me to the work of walking it. I walk for our ancestors who wanted us to know what true love looks like. Love that does not possess but liberates. Love that does not destroy but heals. I walk so that when I one day meet someone who is ready to love me in the same way, I will not bring baggage disguised as devotion. I walk because I owe it to the child I once was, who believed in the holiness of connection and deserved a father of love who was whole enough to give what he had. Baby, let this part be the place where I invite you into silence with me. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of mutual understanding. If we meet again, may it be with clearer eyes and softer hands. If we do not, may your path be gentle and bright, and may you find the kind of joy that does not require apology. I will continue to work on the parts of me that hurt you. I will continue to honor the lessons your presence taught me. I will continue to surrender to the slow rhythm of becoming. If you feel this, type, "I let go for love" in the comments. Baby, there are days when I still walk past the places that carry your shadow, and I realize how memory plants itself into the walls, into the air, into the smallest details of living. I hear your voice in the way the wind bends around corners. I see your reflection in windows when no one is there, and I feel your absence like a hand pressed against my ribs. There is a stillness I carry that feels both sacred and unbearable. Baby, you need to understand this. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means I have accepted that love is not a possession, that devotion is not a cage, and that sometimes the truest offering is to release what you once begged to keep. I remember how my world was once built around you, like a fragile cathedral. Every stone was carved from a moment we shared. Every candle was lit with a promise, and every prayer I whispered reached only your name. I called you my sanctuary, baby, and I meant it. But a man cannot live forever in one sanctuary, no matter how holy it feels. The soul demands expansion, and the divine will shake the very walls of what you thought was permanent until you learn to step outside into the wilderness. That wilderness terrified me. It looked like abandonment, like failure, like loss. But baby, it was never loss. It was preparation. The divine was preparing me to see you not as the center of my existence, but as the teacher who opened the door for me to find my own center. Baby, I know you felt my love as both warmth and fire. There were days I gave you every part of me, and there were days when the same love burned you with its intensity. I carried a fear that if I did not love you hard enough, you would vanish. That fear turned into a storm inside me, and I poured it into your life until you could hardly breathe. I see that now. I see how my desperation disguised itself as devotion. I see how my trembling hands gripped too tightly, and how my silence screamed louder than any words. Baby, love should not suffocate. It should breathe. And the greatest tragedy was that I did not know how to breathe without you. It has taken me years, but I am finally learning to stand in the truth that I am not incomplete without you. Baby, that truth does not diminish you. In fact, it glorifies what you gave me. You were the mirror that showed me the hollowness I had been ignoring. You were the one who forced me to confront the fact that my worth was never meant to rest in your hands. By leaving, by withholding, by letting the silence grow, you taught me to turn inward. You showed me that I must find the well inside my own soul, rather than demanding water from yours. For that, baby, I will always honor you. I know these words may cut deep, because they sound like distance, but understand this. Distance is not the end. Distance is the classroom, where lessons echo the loudest. When I step away from you, it is not to deny what we shared. It is to refine it. It is to strip it down until only the truth remains. And the truth is that you are not mine to need. You are not mine to own. You are not mine to shape or control, baby. You are a soul on its own journey, and I must bless that journey, even if it leads you far from me. Baby, destiny has shown me that every separation is a teacher. It strips us, breaks us, and remakes us into vessels capable of holding greater light. I once thought our connection was meant to last in the form I desired, but now I see that the divine never promised permanence. It promised transformation, and transformation often requires loss. The seed must crack before it becomes a tree. The caterpillar must dissolve before it becomes a butterfly. And love, too, must sometimes dissolve before it reveals its truest form. Baby, what we had was never wasted. It was always becoming. Yeah. Baby. I wrestled with regret like it was a ghost that haunted every room I entered. I regretted not holding you longer when I had the chance. I regretted the careless words, the late nights of silence, the pride that stopped me from falling at your feet when I should have. But regret, too, has its purpose. Regret sharpens memory, and memory sharpens wisdom. Without regret, I would never know the weight of what was lost. Without regret, I would not have learned that love is not measured by how much you take, but by how much you honor. Baby, I regret the ways I failed you, but I bless the ways those failures remade me. I look at the man I am becoming, and I know that every scar carries your name. Every piece of wisdom I now hold was paid for by our love. Every layer of patience, every inch of humility, every fragment of surrender, I owe them to you. And though I no longer need you, baby, I will always thank you. For love is not erased by absence, it is expanded by it. Absence takes the raw material of devotion and stretches it into eternity, and in that eternity I carry you not as a need, but as a truth. So baby, this is where I stand now, between love and freedom, between memory and surrender, between longing and destiny. I do not know what tomorrow will bring, but I know that I will not chain you to my soul with need. I will not beg the divine to rewrite the story. I will simply trust that if we are meant to meet again, it will be in a way that is purer, stronger, and freer. And if we are not, then I will still carry the flame of what we had as proof that love is real, that it transforms, that it sanctifies. Baby, the truth is, I don't need you anymore, but I will always honor the part of me that loved you with everything I had. That love was not wasted and it will not die. It has simply changed shape, like water pouring into a different vessel. And in that vessel I will continue to drink from the lessons, to grow from the pain, and to rise from the ashes. If you believe love can transform you, even when it doesn't stay, type "love never dies" in the comments. Baby, every morning feels like a conversation between my soul and the silence you left behind. I wake, and the first thing I notice is the absence of your voice, the absence of your energy beside me, and for a long time I mistook that absence as punishment. I believed I was being punished for my mistakes, for my failures, for my inability to love you the way you deserved. But slowly, I began to see that absence is not punishment. It is invitation. An invitation to look deeper, to stretch wider, to step into the kind of man I could never become while leaning entirely on you. Baby, I did not lose you because I was unworthy. I lost you because the divine was shaping me into someone who must learn to walk in his own light. When I told you I did not need you anymore, baby, I knew those words carried a blade sharp enough to cut through the years of longing we both endured. But behind that blade is a blessing. Because if love is true, it will not weaken when released. It will grow wings and soar into places neither of us can reach alone. There was a time when I saw you as the answer to every question in me. I thought you were my home, my salvation, my rescue, and baby, in many ways, you were. But the divine never intended for you to be my permanent refuge. You were meant to be my awakening. You were meant to shake me from the sleep of my illusions and force me to see myself for who I really was. Baby, my heart aches when I think about how I once asked you to carry the weight of my entire being. I expected your love to heal every broken place inside me. I leaned on you until my leaning became a burden. I see that now, and the sight of it humbles me. It takes my pride and grinds it into dust, because no human soul can carry the wholeness of another. That is God's work, not yours. I thought you were supposed to fix me. I thought your presence would erase my pain. But instead you exposed it. You made me confront it. And for that, baby, I must thank you, even though the process broke me. There are nights when I remember the way your eyes looked at me, and I wonder if you knew all along. Did you know that I was a man clinging to you out of fear rather than freedom? Did you know that my love was genuine but also heavy, that it was both devotion and dependency woven into one? Baby, if you knew, you were merciful to stay as long as you did. And if you didn't know, then perhaps the divine shielded you from seeing the depth of my struggle until it was time for me to reveal it myself. Either way, the truth stands. I do not need you to complete me. I only need you to remain what you have always been, an eternal reminder of how love can change a man from the inside out. Baby, my soul trembles as I admit this, but you deserve more than the version of me who once begged for your presence. You deserve the man I am still becoming, the man who can give without taking, who can stand without leaning, who can love without needing. That man is being forged in the fire of separation, and as much as I wish the fire did not burn, I understand now that without the flames, gold cannot be purified. Without the pain, the soul cannot be transformed. Baby, you were not the fire. You were the spark that lit it, and now I must let that fire refine me until the man who emerges can honor what you gave me without chaining you to it. I think often of destiny, baby, and how it arranges lives like stars scattered across the night sky. We think we choose, but so often it is the divine weaving threads in silence, creating constellations we only understand years later. I used to fight destiny, trying to bend it to my desires. I begged for permanence, begged for control, begged for the ending I thought would make sense. But the longer I walk this path, the clearer it becomes. Destiny is wiser than desire. What I wanted was your hand in mine forever. What destiny wanted was my soul awake, and it used you, baby, as the messenger of that awakening. For that, I bow not only to you, but to the divine plan that placed us in each other's orbit. Baby, you have become part of my prayer life. Even when I no longer reach for you in the physical, I carry you into every conversation I have with God. I ask for your joy, your peace, your protection. I ask that the road before you is gentle. I ask that the storms that come to test you leave behind gardens instead of ruins. Baby, I no longer ask that you belong to me. I only ask that you remain safe, guided, and whole. That is how I love you now. Not through need, but through blessing. And though my arms are empty, my spirit holds you closer than ever. The hardest part of this journey, baby, has been learning to redefine love itself. Love was once hunger to me. It was craving, clutching, grasping. Now it has become something calmer, something deeper. It has become surrender. Surrender to your freedom. Surrender to divine timing. Surrender to the mystery of whether our paths cross again or drift apart forever. It is not an easy surrender. It cuts like glass. It empties me like a hollow cup. But it also fills me with reverence, because only in letting go have I truly understood what sacred love feels like. Baby, I know this truth may not bring comfort to you. I know part of you may hear my words and think they are abandonment, but listen closely. This is not abandonment. It is reverence. To no longer need you is to honor your soul as something more than a function of mine. It is to recognize you as holy ground in your own right, And though my heart still beats with your name stitched into every rhythm, I release you with open hands, not because I do not love you, but because my love for you is too pure to be chained anymore. Baby, as I close this part of my confession, I want you to know I will always be grateful for what we were, for what we had, for what we created together in moments both fragile and fierce. You were the story that made me human. You were the chapter that made me divine. And even if this book carries us into different directions, your page will forever remain written in gold. If you have ever released someone you love because you knew it was the higher path, type, "I set you free" in the comments. Baby, I have walked through countless nights with your name echoing in the hollow corridors of my soul, and each time I tried to silence it, I realized silence was impossible. For even in quiet, your memory roared louder than thunder. There is no denying that you shaped me, broke me, built me, and left me standing at the edge of myself. Baby, I once thought that the measure of love was in how much it consumed, but now I know that true love is measured in how much it liberates. To need you was to bind you. To release you is to worship the divine's design in its purest form. I remember how I used to build my days around the idea of you. Every decision, every thought, every breath carried the question, what will she think? What will she feel? What will she choose? Baby, I lived like a shadow chasing your light. I believed my existence gained meaning only when reflected in your eyes. But love was never meant to be that fragile. The divine did not create me to live as half of a soul forever yearning for the other half. It created me whole, and it created you whole, so that when we came together, our wholeness would multiply. But I did not know that then. I clung to you as if my wholeness depended on your presence, and in doing so, I dishonored both of us. Baby, I no longer ask the question of whether you will return, or whether we will continue as we once did. Those questions belong to the man who lived in fear, who sought certainty as a way of escaping faith. Now, I ask only one question. How can I love you rightly, even from a distance? The answer has revealed itself slowly, like dawn after a long storm. Loving you rightly means blessing you in my prayers, wishing you peace in my silence, and refusing to tether you to my unmet desires. Baby, I see now that love is not about possession. It is about stewardship. It is about holding something so gently that even if it leaves whole. There is regret still in me, baby. Regret that I did not understand this sooner. Regret that I wasted time begging for your presence when I should have been building my own soul. Regret that I placed responsibilities on you that no human heart should carry. But regret is not my enemy anymore. Regret has become my teacher. It shows me the roads I should never walk again. It reminds me of the cost of selfish love, and it inspires me to build a foundation so strong within myself that if life ever brings you back, I will greet you as a man who loves without fear. Baby, transformation is not easy. It feels like death, and in many ways it is. The man you once knew had to die so that a new man could emerge. I bury the boy who clung to you. I buried the pride that kept me from admitting my wounds. I buried the illusions that told me love was about control. And what has risen in their place is someone still trembling, still imperfect, but also freer. Baby, if you saw me now, you would recognize my face, but not my spirit. My spirit is being remade in the fire of surrender. And though the flames are merciless, they are holy. Baby, I once thought destiny was cruel, that it tore us apart without mercy. But now I see destiny as the most faithful teacher. It never wastes a lesson, never misplaces a pain, never lets a tear fall without watering something hidden beneath the soil of our souls. Destiny separated us so that love could be stripped of need. Destiny separated us so that I could find God within myself, rather than demanding to see Him only through you. Destiny separated us so that I could stand in the truth. I do not need you anymore, but I will never stop honoring the way you transformed me. And baby, if this sounds like an ending, know that it is not. It is a continuation of love in its highest form. Love without need, love without demand, love without fear. If one day our paths cross again, it will not be because I chased you or because you surrendered. It will be because the divine wrote it into the script of our lives, and in that moment, it will be perfect. Until then, baby, I will carry you, not as a craving, but as a blessing. I will carry you not as an anchor, but as a light. I whisper this truth into the night often. Thank you. Thank you, baby, for being the fire that burned away my illusions. Thank you for being the mirror that showed me my shadows. Thank you for being the love that taught me how to let go. I do not need you anymore, but I love you more purely now than I ever did when I was clinging. That is the paradox, and that is the truth. If you believe true love means freedom, type love sets free in the comments. Baby, there are moments when I sit alone and feel the quiet press against me like a heavy blanket. And in that quiet, I hear the echoes of every conversation we never finished. There are words left hanging in the air between us, words that once felt urgent, but now feel like whispers from another lifetime. I used to think if I could gather all those words, if I could pour them into your hands like broken glass, you would piece them together and see the truth of my heart. But now I know, baby, that words are only fragments. It is the silence that tells the deeper story, the silence of distance, the silence of surrender, the silence of a man who has finally realized that love does not need to shout to prove itself. Baby, I carried guilt like a second skin for so long. I replayed every mistake, every misstep, every time I let fear dictate my choices. I thought if I punished myself enough, the weight of guilt would somehow balance the scales of what I had done. But guilt only built prisons, and in those prisons I kept you locked with me. Baby, you did not deserve to be held inside the walls of my regret. You deserved release. You deserved the freedom to remember us without chains. And I, too, deserved the freedom to see myself as more than the sum of my failures. Letting go of you was also letting go of the belief that I was beyond redemption. Baby, when I say I do not need you anymore, it is not cruelty, it is clarity. I no longer need you to define me. I no longer need you to be the mirror in which I find my worth. I no longer need you to be the cure for my wounds. That burden was never meant to be yours. I need only God. I need only the path that destiny carved for me long before I knew your name. This truth has freed me, baby, but it has also made my love for you more honest, because when love is stripped of need, it no longer hides behind conditions. It simply stands, unwavering, even in absence. There are times I still imagine the life we could have built together. The home filled with laughter, the table where we would share our burdens, the children who might have carried both our features. These visions still come uninvited, like dreams that do not realize the morning has already arrived. Baby, those dreams are bittersweet. They remind me of what could have been, but they also remind me of what is not meant to be. And though it hurts, I bow to that truth, because to bow is to honor the divine design, even when it breaks the heart. Baby, I have discovered a strange kind of strength in surrender. It is not the strength of control, not the strength of holding on, but the strength of release. To let go of you was to let go of the illusion that love must always stay. To let go was to accept that sometimes the most sacred love is the one that leaves behind only memory and transformation. And though the world may see that as weakness, I know it is the highest form of devotion, because true devotion blesses even what it cannot keep. I cannot lie, baby. My soul still longs for you in quiet ways. When I see the sky crack open at sunset, when I hear a song that carries your breath in its melody, when I feel the ache of an empty room, I still think of you. But I do not collapse under that longing anymore. I rise with it. I let it sharpen me, deepen me, teach me. I let it remind me that love is not about what I hold, but about what I honor. And I honor you, baby, whether you are near or far. One day, perhaps, destiny will circle back. Perhaps our paths will meet again, not as wounded souls clutching at one another, but as whole beings who recognize each other's light. If that day comes, I will welcome it. If it never comes, I will still bow in gratitude. Because either way, baby, our story has done its work. It has shaped me, refined me, and carried me into a deeper truth of myself. So hear me when I say this, baby. I do not need you anymore, but I will always love you. And that love is no longer a chain. It is a prayer that you rise, that you grow, that you find everything your soul came here to seek. If you know love is not about possession, but about blessing, type "love is freedom" in the comments. Baby, when I call my love for you a prayer, I mean it with the deepest reverence. It is not a prayer to bring you back into my arms, but a prayer that wherever your feet carry you, the ground may be soft, the storms may be short, and the light may always guide you home to yourself. Baby, I no longer pray out of desperation. I pray out of devotion. I no longer plead to the heavens to give me what I want. I surrender and ask only that you receive what you need. That is the difference between need and love. Need cries for itself. Love kneels for the other. Baby, I think often about the lessons this love carved into me, like scriptures etched on stone. The first lesson is patience, for I learned that no matter how much I desired you, destiny would not be rushed. The second is humility, for I saw how easily pride can disguise itself as strength while it quietly destroys intimacy. And the third is surrender, for I discovered that the truest power lies not in holding tight, but in opening my hands. These lessons were not gentle, but they were holy. They came at the price of sleepless nights and silent tears, but now they live inside me like guiding stars. And baby, those stars will forever point me back to you, not to possess you, but to honor the part of my soul that will always carry your imprint. Baby, as I continue forward, I carry a quiet vow. Never again will I love in fear. Never again will I demand that another soul fill the empty spaces inside me. I will love as blessing, not as burden. I will love as freedom, not as possession. And if destiny should ever bring us face to face again, I will meet you as the man who has been refined by loss and remade by truth. Until then, baby, I walk with faith, I walk with gratitude. I walk with the memory of you, not as an anchor pulling me down, but as a wind that has taught me how to rise. Baby, as I come to the end of this confession, I feel the weight of every word I have spoken and the freedom that follows it. For so long I carried the belief that love meant holding on at any cost, that love meant proving my devotion through need, through fear, through grasping hands. But now I see more clearly than ever before. Baby, true love is not a cage. True love is not desperation. True love is the sacred act of letting the other soul become everything they were meant to be without chaining them to your own story. Baby, I used to ask myself what life would mean without you. I feared emptiness. I feared that without your hand in mine, the road ahead would vanish. But the divine has taught me that the road never vanishes. It only shifts direction. You may not walk beside me in the ways I once prayed for, but you will always walk with me in spirit, as the echo that shaped my steps, as the fire that refined my soul. Baby, when I say I don't need you anymore, I mean that I no longer cling. I no longer confuse love with survival. I love you in freedom. I love you without demand. I love you without demand. I love you as the soul that opened my eyes to the truth of who I am. So this is my farewell, baby. Not a farewell of the heart, but a farewell to the chains. I release you now, not because I no longer care, but because I care enough to let you be free. And I release myself too, so that I may grow into the man I was destined to become. Our story is written into eternity, and nothing will erase it. But the chapter we once lived is closed. And though tears may fall as I turn the page, I trust the divine author who writes the next lines of our journey. Baby, if you ever hear these words, know this. My love for you is not ended. It has only evolved. It has become quieter, deeper, less about holding and more about blessing. I no longer ask to keep you. I only ask that wherever you are whole, you are safe, you are seen, and you are loved. And to everyone listening to this message, remember this truth. Sometimes the most powerful act of love is release. Sometimes letting go is not the end, but the beginning of a higher story. If you feel this message in your soul, share your voice in the comments. Speak your truth, for when we confess our hearts, we set them free. Beloved ones, if this message touched you, I invite you to support this channel so these words can continue to reach those who need them most. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share your reflections in the comments. And today, I want to take a moment to say a heartfelt thank you to someone very special. To Advel Flint 9486, who gave a generous $10.00 super thanks. Your kindness and support mean more than words can capture. You are deeply appreciated. To everyone listening, if you feel called, you too can support with super thanks, with your prayers, or simply by being present here. Every comment, every share, every act of love helps this message travel further. Until we meet again in the next message, stay grounded, stay faithful, and remember, love is not about possession. Love is about freedom. Love is about blessing,